Hello again, sir.
Can you
Mhm.
hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
yes, we can hear you. Uh, so now we were at, I think, transfusions, and yeah, so that was definitely unexpected. You know that India has a well-developed transfusion system, but India is definitely, I think, better off in a lot of ways than Pakistan is. So another thing that we wanted to ask you was that, so I was reading about the development for a way to prevent the thalassemia gene or to end it, kind of vaccine. So no, it wasn't a vaccine. It was what do you call it? CRISPR, right? Genetic
Yeah,
remodeling.
yeah.
So what do you have to say about this? Is it feasible?
You know, your question is really good. The key thing is the Bluebird Bio. It has come up with some amazing technology so that the gene can be introduced and the patient can be cured of thalassemia. But the thing is, you never know where the gene is gonna insert. It can cause like insertion mutagenesis, like sometimes it can cause leukemia. It can cause we never know where does the gene will be inserted. In fact, and also the key thing is sometimes the transfusion independence is for a shorter duration of time in the cases of if the gene is being inserted, like it would work for certain span of time, and sometimes the gene the stem cells in which the gene is inserted, eventually they do not last forever, and the patient again becomes transfusion dependent. So there are certain drugs that have been tried, and like TGF beta inhibitors, luspatercept, and and all these medicines, but they do increase the duration of transfusion. But the key thing is that sometimes that the people do not respond to these medicines, so they can increase the duration of the patient being transfused, in fact, but it is not fully curable as compared to the stem cell transplant. So I would rather go for a stem cell transplant for a thalassemia class 1 thalassememic patient, as per the Pizarro's classification, and even it is feasible in Pakistan too. The medicines, the conventional medicines that can be used for transplant are busulfan, cyclophosphamide, adgam, and cyclosporin, and methotrexate, that are not very expensive medicines. So these medicines can be basically used, that and these are the basic medication. Bucy is a basic medication to do a transplant, and for a match sibling donor, methotrexate is not that much expensive, so it is feasible in Pakistan. So the key thing is the HEPA filter system, the filter system that has to be adopted in certain hospitals where there is clean air, like there is cleanliness, there is no viral exposure, bacterial exposure, hand hygiene is being kept, and the transplant is still feasible in your setup too, because it would be costing like 4ish or 5ish lakh rupees only, like if these medications are used. So it is possible in fact.
Definitely, sir. Then, if it is possible, then it is a thing that Pakistan should definitely look into, because day by day, the percentage of um, uh, thalassemia is increasing due to consensual marriage in Pakistan. So the next question, not question, but an opinion that we would like to get, take from you is that there are different diseases which other countries have come together to, let's say, suppose end or fight against. For example, you may mention polio. There wasn't much awareness, but then the UN got involved. They
Yes.
created a block, and the countries came together and they worked on it. In terms of thalassemia, do you think that it is possible that doctors and specialists from different countries, they come together, they come up with rules and regulations and different vaccines that could be given out to people in rural areas or developing countries that may help to reduce the spread of thalassemia?
Yes.
you
Also,
know Yeah, so the key thing is, the screening for hemoglobinopathies when the child is born. So, the classic heel prick screening, which is done in United States is, the heel prick screening, and it's for inborn error of metabolism. And if there is a high risk, they can run the gene testing for thalassemia or thalassemia trait, like in US, but it is like pretty expensive. In India, if you start a mass screening program, it would be costing a lot. So rather, going for a mass screening program, I should rather prefer, uh, screening based upon, the specific risk groups that are, that are more prone
Preferences for
to
them.
thalassemia. Yeah, certain countries have adopted premarital screening actually, and they have virtually eliminated, thalassemia. Cyprus, they have been doing a good job. In fact, they virtually eliminated thalassemia because they do premarital screening. They check for traits, and if the two patients are traits, they tell that the child, there is a 25% chance of the child being thalassemic. But in India, the sensitization hasn't occurred. Like, there are marriages, but the premarital screening for all these hemoglobinopathies hasn't still, come up. And and no one actually, does these screening. And mostly the management comes when the child is born with a disease, and then they think, the second child should not have the disease. Ideally, the screening should be done, and it is done in certain countries, and they have actually even eliminated, thalassemias, in the Mediterranean region actually. So the key thing is the cost, the availability of the next generation sequencing to search for thalassemia genes. In fact, there are 6 major mutations actually which are common in India and Pakistan. In fact, so there are intervening sequence mutations, and there are mutations that are the termination codon mutation. So 5 to 6 genes can be screened. 5 to 6 genes major screening can be done if there are, if the community is belonging to certain sect or region in which have increased incidence of thalassemia. So this can be done actually. Only 5 to 6 mutations, major mutations, can be screened. So this can be done.
Okay, so definitely. And if it is possible, then it would be a great incentive that people
Yes.
come through. Like, for example, countries have already done this. For example, China, if you may look into China, they have made premarital screening a law there, that before marriage, you need to be premaritally screened. So, not to be bugging you anymore, we would like to come to our last question, in my opinion, I think that it's very important. In terms of medical or doctor awareness, do you think that doctors who are researching and working on this specific category, which is thalassemia, are they being sufficiently funded by the government, or do you think that they require more equipment, they require more time, and they require more funds?
In India, mostly.
Yeah, in India and Pakistan, the position is kind of a little bit same. The funds, for the research of the thalassemia and thalassemia gene and all that stuff, it is, the funding is mainly by the NGOs and some government agencies, in fact. But the key thing is, thalassemia is, a topic which has been, completely assessed and discussed. All the research has been done completely, and more research, is possible in stem cell transplant. In fact, so the funding for the gene studies, CRISPR studies, and stem cell transplant studies would require a lot of funding thing. Rather than, doing a funding research over here, we can follow the funding, the research results from various countries, like you said, like China, like US, Israel, Europe, UK. So we tend to follow, we tend to go there. We tend to learn in various countries and learn how to do new generation transplant at lesser costs, and we tend to implement over here. So, yes, it's a good incentive to do a research, but the key thing is, after doing the research, you cannot fully cure and eventually the patient becomes transfusion dependent and vector based DNA transfer in the stem cells, eventually that cell will burn out and eventually would require a retreatment and can cause insertion mutagenesis. So rather than going for vector based technology and research, I would rather say go for stem cell transplant because it is cheaper as compared to the molecular vector based studies, and it is costing a lot of dollars. The luspatercept, the medicine which has been released, it is very very expensive medicine. Bluebird bio gene technology for thalassemia, it is very very expensive. Expensive technology to insert a normal hemoglobin gene into a person's stem cells and reinfusing the stem cells. So what do we do really here? We take the stem cells of the patient, we infect it with a virus, and the virus has a normal thalassemia gene. So the virus integrates in the stem cells. We give the bone marrow ablation conditioning, which is known as myeloablative conditioning. Bucy can be given, busulfan, cyclophosphamide can be given, triosulfan, flu, thiotepa based conditioning can be given, and same stem cells which are infected with that virus, which contain a normal globin gene, can be inserted. So this is the gene technology to cure the thalassemia. But the thing is, it's very expensive. The virus, making that virus, doing research on that virus, whether that virus will function and all that, and how long will that gene function in the body, no one really knows actually. Yes, it's good to fund all these researches, but more funding should be done in the transplant thing, because to optimize and decrease the GVSD in in the viral infected, the virus that transfects the gene into the stem cells, it would not cause graft versus host disease. That is good. The patient would not have graft versus host disease because it's in his own cells. But I would rather say it is very very expensive. The molecular studies and creating all those viral vectors and doing research is very expensive. Bringing out a new molecule is very expensive. It requires clinical trials. It requires a lot of preclinical studies in mice, then in normal human models, then in the patients who are suffering from disease. So it is, and getting those volunteers to do a research takes a lot of funding. So I would rather say that to use those funding in transplants and going ahead with the transplant research to decrease GVSD and to optimize performance. And post transplant the patient do well. They do not need any transfusion, they do not need any chelation, so they are cured. Even their blood group changes. Whatever the donor blood group was there, if it was O, it becomes A, whatever. So even the blood group changes after transplant. New immune system comes up. So it's a one-time treatment, and I would rather go for transplants rather than further researching into this topic, which is already researched a lot.
So, doctor, I would say that definitely you gave us a lot of insights and a lot of knowledge about this that we probably couldn't have gotten from anywhere else. And I thank you very much for your time with us today. It was
So
definitely invaluable.
this has
And
been a lovely interaction with you, sir. Uh, as my partner said, we have learned a lot from you, and we look forward to put this through to other people and to create awareness as much as we can.
yeah, thank you very much. Really nice talking to you guys, and I would be more than happy if you disseminated it in India and Pakistan. It was really very very nice talking to you guys, and you can probably upload it on YouTube and stuff like that, and you can disseminate the information so that everyone is aware what we
Definitely,
can
sir.
do for
Definitely,
this disease.
Thank you, sir.
definitely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day, sir.
Have a
Have a
nice
nice
day.
day. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.